Good day, everyone, and welcome to another installment of the Office and Research Protections and Integrity Seminar Series. Today, we will be going over ORCID, a persistent digital identifier that you can link to your research profiles. Before we get started, there are some tips for getting the most out of today's presentation. We don't have access to your camera or microphone. Please use the Q&A button to ask questions throughout the session. Don't use AI bots during the presentation. If you need a transcript to follow along with, use the closed caption feature. And we will also be posting a copy of the presentation transcript on the Office of Research Protections and Integrity's website training page. That transcript will include all of the hyperlinks that you will see highlighted on the slides throughout the presentation. Today's goal is to go over the basics of ORCID, its features, and its benefits to both you and UNC Charlotte. Your presenters today are myself, Saul Sotolongo. I am the Research Security Coordinator in the Office of Research Protections and Integrity. Joining me today is Garrison Libby, the Head of Research Services at the J. Murray Atkins Library here on Charlotte's main campus. All right, let's begin by going over what an ORCID ID is. The technical term for the ID is a unique digital persistent identifier. I think that's a good analogy for persistent identifiers. Would be something like the ISBN that you see listed on books, or the Social Security number that's given to any resident of the United States. By using that identifier, you can pull up all of the associated information that is linked to that identifier. This speeds up the search process significantly when you're trying to find a book or when you're filling out applications that need information associated with that Social Security number. The ORCID ID in practice achieves that same level of efficiency. So how does having your research activity tied to a number benefit you? It will eliminate same name confusion. If another researcher with the same name as you is publishing work. ORCID integrates with a wide range of websites and software, so you can populate your research record into forms and save yourself time when doing grant applications, for example. It will be with you throughout your entire career and is interoperable with all major research databases. As you can see in that diagram on the right, you can create a synergy to your entire research ecosystem. It's also worth noting that only you have control and access to the information that's posted to your profile, and not any of the institutions with which you are associated. So ORCID has been around for over a decade, and I guess the question is, why are we bringing it up now? The National Science and Technology Council issued a memorandum requiring institutions like ours to start using digital persistent identifiers by 2024. This is part of a push by the federal government to protect the American research enterprise from threats created by malicious foreign actors. ORCID meets all of these government requirements, and in its 10 plus years of existence, has become the most widely adopted digital persistent identifier for researchers. So after this presentation, you've decided to link your research to an ORCID ID. The process to create an ID is fairly straightforward, and the ORCID website does a good job of guiding you through the process. It mirrors the guided sign-up process of many other websites. You just go to the ORCID registration page at that link you see there on the slide, orcid.org/register, and follow the step-by-step instructions to create your ORCID account. Once your account is created, you then need to go through the different sections and start inputting your research information. Should you run into any problems while going through the process, the hyperlinks that you see on this slide are all connected to the help pages that assist you in uploading information to these sections. I won't be going through the process step by step in this presentation, but I did want to highlight one link near the bottom of the slide, the peer review activity section. Your ORCID profile has a section for you to input all of the peer review activity that you undertake for different publishers. This ORCID profile creates a great opportunity for you, the researchers, to get recognition for all of that time and work that you put into reviewing research papers from your colleagues. The next logical question that comes up is, are there any funding agencies that are actually requiring me to get an ORCID ID? And the answer is yes. You can see on this slide that already the NSF, NIH, AHRQ, and the CDC are already requiring researchers to have an ORCID ID on proposal submissions. And if you recall, NSPM 33 is requiring all federal funding agencies to require them. The most recent guidance that came from the Office of Science and Technology Policy stated that all of the agencies need to comply with this mandate by no later than the end of 2025. Here's a small example of how these agencies have started incorporating this into their proposal process. The NSF and the NIH are using Science CV as a platform for integrating with ORCID as a way for researchers to populate their data into the digital CV system that both of the agencies have implemented. This meets all of the federal government mandates, and it also has the benefit of speeding up the application process for applicants. And in addition to federal agencies requiring it, over 100 publishers are now requiring ORCID IDs as part of their publishing process. Yet another instance of researchers needing to create and associate their research with ORCID. The attached link at the bottom of this slide gives the full list of publishers that are requiring the ORCID ID. But from just my small sample on the slide, you can see that there are some major publishers already requiring that ORCID ID. And my final slide before turning things over to Garrison Libby from the Atkins Library is a call to action from our Export Control Office. Many of you have host foreign visitors and scholars as part of your projects. Those incoming visitors need to be screened by the Export Control Office before their visit can be approved. Speaking from experience, when these visitors have their research linked through ORCID, our screening process is sped up considerably. So we ask that you encourage all of your colleagues, both foreign and domestic, to sign up for an ORCID ID. And with that, I'll turn things over to Garrison.
Thank you. So what I want to talk about is diving in a little bit further into ORCIDs and kind of how they work. Are you able to go ahead to the next slide? Thank you. So Saul mentioned this earlier, but I just want to really emphasize this, is that one of the main benefits of ORCIDs for you as a researcher is that it is a record of your scholarship that you manage. If you're familiar with research databases like PubMed, Web of Science, they'll often try to collect all of their research together, but they'll sometimes lump together authors with similar names. Sometimes they will omit some of your articles, but this is a page of your scholarship that you control that's going to be accessible to everyone. So you can collect all of your publications, your projects, research, professional service. A lot of great stuff are available on this one central page. And you can use that to share with your colleagues and your collaborators. So you can really ensure that it's going to accurately reflect your research and your service. So in some ways, it can also be a bit of an extension of your curriculum vitae. And so again, it makes it a really powerful tool. In addition to all the places that require it now, it's just a great tool for you to keep up to date with and to manage. Many journals will now add your ORCID to the author info. So many journals, when you pull up the record page, you will see like we've got an example here of an article, and on that journal's page, it does link to the ORCID. So as a researcher, if you are doing research, you find an article, it's also a good pathway for you to see what else has that particular author written. What other publications have they done? So if you find someone who could be a potential collaborator who has a really interesting train of research, you can follow that very easily and find their other publications. So not all journals are using that right now, but more and more are putting that ORCID information right there in the journal article itself or in the like index information about the author and stuff. So again, very simple and very handy. Adding records is very simple. So again, because it is a system that you kind of manage yourself, you do have to manually add your publications, your service, things like that. But it does give you many different ways to do that. You can search and embed links. You can embed based on DOI. If your publications are included in PubMed, you can include by some PubMed ID. You can add via BibTeX, or you just enter the information manually yourself. So very, very simple tools to add into it, just like the sign up process, very simple, very straightforward. And if you're importing a record from elsewhere, before it adds it, it does give you the chance to do any kind of cleanup. If, maybe it puts in something incorrectly, you can still manually fix that as well, even if you are embedding just straight from a DOI. Another really helpful thing you can do is you can use ORCID to like publicize your own work when communicating with colleagues, with other researchers, collaborators, and add it straight into your email like signature. You can see one of my colleagues here, Jeff McAdams. He has included his ORCID ID in his signature. And so that's just one where, again, people can very quickly pull up his list of research and publications to see what he's worked on. So it's a great way to elevate the impact and visibility of your research. You can increase the number of citations that you receive by putting your stuff in ORCID and making it more visible. And if you do have questions about ORCIDs, the library is always more than happy to help you. Again, my name is Garrison Libby, and my email address is right here on the slide. So if you have questions about ORCIDs, have any questions about setting them up, how to get your material in, you could always reach out to me directly at g.libby@charlotte.edu. Or if you have worked with your subject librarian, because we do have librarians who specialize in every department on campus, they can also help you set up and maintain your ORCID as well. We are always more than happy to help you with the process, whether that's setting up an account, adding in your scholarship, updating your profile, or just helping you brainstorm ideas for where and how to publicize your ORCID. We are here to help with that process any step of the way. Don't hesitate to reach out, and we're happy to sit down with you and help you, because again, it really does help improve the visibility of your research. And one kind of last thing I think to highlight for me is that what's also very helpful about ORCIDs is that you can also include multiple links to your papers. So you can link, for example, to the final published version, but if you use our 9R Commons platform to post your preprints or your accepted manuscript, you can also link to that as well. So again, when you think about boosting the visibility and impact of your research, you don't just have to include the final paywall journal version, but you could also link to any other publicly available versions as well, so that more people might be able to have access to your research. So again, it can link to the final version in the journal, but also through like the Niner Commons, that preprint or other kind of publicly accessible version if you have that stored in a repository somewhere.
That concludes our presentation on the ORCID ID, the persistent digital identifier that you own and control. The last thing that we will leave you with are the most common questions that people encounter when using ORCID. And once again, the hyperlinks, these go straight to the ORCID help pages that can help you sort through any of those issues if you're having them while using it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Garrison or to me here at the Office of Research Protections and Integrity. Thank you for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.